Hi, I'm Krystal and this is my van I've had for 2 years. Over these last few months, I have worked on converting my van to what it is now. Today, I'm going to be going over some old footage I have that I took during my van build, how I installed my fan vent, put on my solar panel, and then insulation. This is actually my second van build. I did a very simple, very quick build when I first got my van, right before I moved in and lived in it while I went to college. What the build looked like before is this. I wasn't ready at that point to dedicate the time and resources to do a full-on build like I have now. It was a long process to get there. One of the first things that I did was take everything out from my previous build. I started researching what I needed for solar electricity, and I found a 100-watt solar panel. I also invested in a fantastic fan, along with that putting insulation up in the empty shell of the van. I ended up starting with the solar panel because I knew exactly where I needed to put it on my van. My van is actually a curved high-top roof, so it was interesting trying to figure out how I would fit my solar panel on there and if there would ever be an option for me to expand if I needed more solar panel. The back part of the roof of the van is the most flat, so I chose that area. I just got a 100-watt Renogy solar panel, ordered it off of Amazon. It was the kit, so it came with the solar panel, the charge controller, wires, and then also the hardware needed to put the panels onto the roof. Other than that, to install the solar panel, I also needed a drill, of course, butyl tape or butyl putty, which is supposed to keep water out whenever you drill the holes, seals it around there so there's no leaks if it rains. What I did is I actually mounted the solar panels directly onto the roof of my van. No, I thought about getting a roof rack, but it just wasn't in my budget for the time being. At the time, I was okay with compromising, and I knew I would be able to do it securely. Most likely in the future, if I ever do any other van builds, then I will definitely invest in a roof rack so I can reduce the holes that I'm drilling into my ceiling. After I got the solar panel on, I had to figure out how to wire it down to my battery bank. I have it fed through. This was actually a covering for a camera, a backup camera, but the camera never worked, so I flipped it. The opening was here, but I flipped it upside down so the opening is here, and these are waterproof connectors, and we just fed it through here. Solar panel wires, and it feeds down to here. And what I recommend you guys do is to look up and research as many how-tos as you can so you get different perspectives and see how different people do it, because wiring can be tricky, and it was one of the things that took the longest time in my van build. Good thing about the specific solar charge controller that I had is it had labels and little pictures on the block itself. On the solar panel, there's no crazy wiring, it's just a plug you hook up into. At least that's how it is for the one that I got. And then for the fan, I got the fantastic fan, also from Amazon. I had to get over my fear of drilling a huge hole into the roof of my van. This part I really had to take my time with, and I suggest you do too if you're working on installing something like this. You do want to be very precise and make sure you're doing everything right. The way that we did it is off the area. We measured it because it came with a template, the white cover that overlays the fan when you put it inside, so it was the perfect square. And then along that tape line is where the cut would be made. And to make the cut with the saw, we had to first long sharp tool and tap a little divot in it. The reason that you do the divot is so that when you're holding the drill there, it doesn't move around or anything. And you do that on all 4 corners. And then from those drill holes, you can start taking the saw, bring it down, and then that's kind of your start. So the hole was cut. I was pretty excited, but also wow, there's a huge hole in my roof. I made sure to sweep everything off, clean the surface area that's around it. We put the tape on there and started drilling holes into where the holes need to go whenever you put the fan on it. After we put the top part of the fan in, the thing to finish it off was to put the cover on the underside of it, which looks like this. Before you do that, obviously you have to put the insulation and ceiling on. So that was the next step with insulation. The first van build, I didn't really do too well on insulation. I was kind of in a hurry and kind of didn't know what I was doing. After watching guides and videos and how-tos and stuff, it really helped me out learning how to do it myself and with the help of my boyfriend. I've seen a lot of insulation videos, and they were done on Sprinter vans, large cargo vans that are very boxy. But with my van, it's very curved, the edges aren't completely straight, so it's a lot harder to do perfect square panels like they do on those types of vans. What I had to do is cut out the insulation to the shape of the little crevices of the like wall siding and stuff. It was kind of time consuming, but at the same time installation wasn't too hard. It is kind of self-explanatory. Just get the material you need and put it in there. The main materials that you do need, and there are a lot of different options on insulation. I ended up doing polyiso. I don't know how to say that, but this is how it's spelled. I also did some foam insulation, some foam spray, and that was used for like little gaps and stuff that I didn't get with the larger polyso foam boards. And then the ceiling was also a struggle, the hardest part of the installation at least. Because the roof is curved, I wouldn't be able to just have one panel and put it up there, or like big long panels, because it's curved. So what I did, and what I needed to do anyways to drill in the ceiling panels, was to do support beams to kind of straighten out the ceiling. And how I did that is I did panels going the opposite way of the ribs, because that's the way that the ceiling panels needed to be, and I measured it down the length, and it just took a lot of calculating and stuff. So that's another thing you should be prepared for if you are doing a van build, especially on this type of van. Any van really. The van has all sorts of curves and stuff, so it's really hard to actually measure things sometimes. So cardboard cutouts is a lifesaver. Cardboard cutouts is what I use to make the upper shelving up there, and I definitely could not have done it without cardboard cutouts. So you can get free cardboard even if you go to a department store and you see people stocking aisles, workers stocking aisles. You can just go up to them and be like, hey, can I take some of this cardboard off your hands? Or if you see some on the side of the street on trash day, that's that kind of thing. That's how I got mine, as well as from the boxes that I ordered some of my products from. I reused that cardboard. Once the insulation was in, I was ready to start putting on the ceiling panels, and what I ended up getting was tongue and groove cedar wood, which worked out perfectly, and it smelled amazing. It was $20 for a pack of 6, and I ended up getting 2 or 3 packs for the ceiling alone. And before I had started putting the ceiling panels on, I had to mark where those wooden pieces were so that I can use that to drill the panels into the ceiling. Otherwise I'd be putting panels up and I wouldn't really know how to drill it, but that was the best place to drill into to make sure it was secure, and I did that on 4 points of each panel. The wood was somewhat easily bendable. Parts of it I wasn't strong enough to really hold it myself, so at least for me it was a 2-person job. I didn't really get many videos of the process of putting the wall in because it was really quick for me. I just kind of threw it up there. Before you put the wall paneling and ceiling paneling on, you should also think about your wiring situation, where you're going to have your wires routed, because you want them to be behind the walls but in between the walls and the insulation. So what you could do is use black tubing that you can feed the wires through, place the wires and routed them where they needed to go before any of that. And at that point in the build, it was around winter time. We had already noticed that the insulation was keeping the van warmer on the inside. But insulation is very important, especially if you're going to be in colder climates. That actually took about a month to do, and a lot of that process, I didn't record much of it. So after all of that was done, I was ready to move on to the next. There's a dog. After that process of the build was done, I was able to move on to the next things, like the bed frame, cabinet structures, shelving. Alright, so that was my process with insulation and drilling holes into the roof and everything. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!